That was the denial of Alyssa Bustamante, a villain claiming no involvement in the disappearance of a little angel. Until the interrogator handed her a diary page she had blacked out. By hiding her face, she gave herself permission to take off her mask of innocence. What caused this young child to do such a horrible deed? And what mysteries lie hidden in the shadows of her soul, just waiting to be found? On the peaceful afternoon of October 21, 2009, in St. Martin's Town, west of Jefferson City, Missouri, USA, the family of 9-year-old Elizabeth Olten experienced a sense of worry and unease when they realized their daughter was missing. At 5 a.m. that day, Elizabeth had asked permission to go to the neighboring Bustamante's house to play with a friend for an hour and then return home for dinner. After Elizabeth didn't return home on time, her family called the neighbors to inquire about her whereabouts, and they were informed that Elizabeth had returned home around 6:15 p.m. Knowing that Elizabeth was extremely afraid of the dark and would never dare to go anywhere alone after sunset, the family became extremely worried. In this small town with only about 1,000 residents, where most people know each other, Elizabeth's disappearance stirred up the entire community. A large-scale search was organized with the participation of over 100 volunteers and various law enforcement agencies, such as the police, firefighters, FBI, and search and rescue teams. The police also utilized all available resources, including helicopters and canine units, to search every corner of the town and surrounding areas, but no trace of Elizabeth was found. The growing concern deepened as time passed without any sign of the little girl. Elizabeth Olten has soft, wavy brown hair, a smile as sweet as an angel's, adores the color pink, and is polite and sociable. She is the 9-year-old girl whom everyone living in the picturesque town of Jefferson City, Missouri, USA, knows well. Elizabeth Olten was born on December 15, 1999, in Jefferson City, Missouri. She is the daughter of Patricia Carwile Price and Dale Olten Sr. and the youngest of 5 siblings. Elizabeth had a normal, happy childhood. Like anyone else, Elizabeth also had close neighbors just a few doors down from her home. Living in that house were Alyssa Bustamante, a 15-year-old girl, and her 6-year-old half-sister. According to the townsfolk, it was quite a complicated family situation. Alyssa's parents were serving time in prison, so she and her younger sister were being cared for by their grandparents. Despite the criminal background of her parents, Alyssa and her sister displayed qualities that didn't make people feel uneasy. Patty, Elizabeth's mother, was also comfortable with her daughter playing with the 2 neighboring girls. But little did anyone know, that was the beginning of a chilling case, with Elizabeth herself becoming the victim. At that time, Alyssa Bustamante had watched and read about numerous murder cases in movies as well as in the media. She wanted to know what it truly felt like. It was an inexplicable curiosity and a twisted thought of a high school girl simmering in her mind for a long time. Alyssa Bustamante's close acquaintances assert that from childhood to adolescence, she did not suffer from any serious illness that could cause abnormal neurological effects. In addition, Alyssa Bustamante was someone who paid close attention and cared for younger children than herself. Her intellectual and physical development was completely normal, and there were no academic issues that caused concern for her family or school. However, despite this, no one could read Alyssa Bustamante's thoughts. After Patty called to report her daughter missing, mentioning Elizabeth had her cell phone with her, the authorities contacted AT&T, the service provider, to locate the approximate position of the phone. The search team quickly picked up the signal of the phone somewhere in the forest between her house and Bustamante's residence. The police interrogated the Bustamante family, including the grandparents, 2 twin brothers, and a sister. While speaking with Emma, they learned that Alyssa had been playing with them that afternoon. The authorities also discovered unusual behavior from Alyssa Bustamante. The day after Elizabeth's disappearance, Alyssa didn't show up at school. Furthermore, while the police and those around her were frantically searching for Elizabeth, Alyssa remained remarkably calm, even appearing content. During the search of her house, Alyssa's bedroom was found filled with disturbing drawings and writings. Additionally, her social media accounts revealed a darker side with shocking and anti-authority selfies. What's chilling is that on MySpace and YouTube, she listed murdering and cutting as her interests. The police found a blacked-out diary page, with the last line on the page being the day Elizabeth disappeared. Determined to uncover the truth, they used the candlelight as a background behind the paper, and saw two words, slit and throat. At first, during the interrogation, Alyssa didn't confess to her crime. When asked why she had been digging holes behind the mountain, she replied that it was for fun. Sergeant Rice remained calm and asked her questions as gently and slowly as possible. After Sergeant Rice presented the evidence, including details from the victim's diary and phone signals, Alyssa finally admitted her involvement in Elizabeth's disappearance. She then led the police to the nearby woods. At a snow-covered site, the police excavated based on Alyssa's directions and uncovered the body of little Elizabeth, buried beneath a shallow layer of soil. The autopsy results revealed that Elizabeth had experienced brutality, including being beaten, strangled, stabbed multiple times, and having her throat slit. This demonstrates the level of cruelty and horror in Alyssa Bustamante's actions, causing shock and outrage within the community and society. After being arrested, Alyssa confessed in detail to the process of murdering Elizabeth. According to her account, on the evening of October 21, 2009, Alyssa's 6-year-old sister Emma rang Elizabeth's doorbell and asked if Elizabeth could come out to play with her. Elizabeth's mother agreed, on the condition that her daughter had to be back home by 6 p.m. by evening. Noticing Elizabeth's fear of going home alone, Alyssa volunteered to walk her home. As they passed through the deserted woods between their houses, she suddenly restrained and gagged Elizabeth. The child, overwhelmed with fear, fainted, and Alyssa dragged her deeper into the woods. Here, the 15-year-old girl viciously beat Elizabeth and indiscriminately stabbed her small body. Upon discovering that the victim had stopped breathing, Alyssa proceeded to use the knife to cut the victim's throat. Afterwards, she buried the poor child's body in a hole she had previously dug 4 days earlier. All of these events occurred within a span of 45 minutes, concluding at 7 p.m., just as the police began deploying search teams to find Elizabeth. Alyssa's brutality left investigators shaken and fearful, but the motive behind the murder left them even more horrified. When asked about the reason for committing such a vicious act, Alyssa unabashedly stated that she harbored no animosity towards an adorable child like Elizabeth. The true motive was that Alyssa wanted to know how it would feel to personally commit murder, driven by an urge to experience it. She was constantly compelled by the thought of experiencing it firsthand. The 2 holes she had dug earlier were originally intended for carrying out the plan to murder her own 2 siblings. However, due to her impatience and desire to experience intense feelings, the opportunity to act on her siblings never came. When she saw little Elizabeth going home alone, Alyssa satisfied her own curiosity. Right after mercilessly murdering the innocent girl, Alyssa Bustamante calmly returned home and wrote in her diary. In the diary, she described in great detail her heinous actions against a mere 9-year-old child. She asserted that this was her first exciting experience, a horrifying yet satisfying fulfillment of her curiosity about the sensation of murdering someone. The lines written in Alyssa Bustamante's diary asserted that she had no neurological issues. Moreover, she also penned down her thoughts and feelings. In addition, prior to the incident, on her personal Facebook page, Alyssa was seen posting a photo with extremely frightening makeup. Speculation from the investigating authorities suggests that her thoughts might have been influenced by cases of murder. It is known that Alyssa had a history of mental illness. In 2007, she exhibited symptoms of a nervous breakdown and had suicidal intentions. After committing the murder of Elizabeth Olten, Alyssa Bustamante lifted her face to the sky and mocked, believing it was too easy to take someone's life. She absolutely lacked any feelings of remorse or fear of punishment, and she proceeded straight to the church. Despite the police being confident that the evidence against Tyrone was sufficient to charge him with murder, he remained adamant in denying the crime, and his mother couldn't accept the truth either. Her calm demeanor after this terrifying act was particularly chilling when compared to that of other cold-blooded murderers, who often seek to avoid responsibility. Alyssa Bustamante showed no concern for the consequences of her actions. The only thing that mattered to her was satisfying her curiosity about the sensation of murdering someone. Alyssa's actions sparked outrage and concern within the community and garnered significant attention from the media. The story became a controversial topic, with many unable to believe that a 15-year-old girl could harbor such twisted thoughts. Alyssa's cruelty and indifferent demeanor before and after the act left many people worried about the safety of the community. When the crime was committed, Alyssa was not yet of legal adult age, but in October 2009, she was indicted for murder in the first degree. On November 17, 2009, the Jefferson City Court ruled that Alyssa Bustamante would be tried as an adult. This meant that she would face the legal consequences of her actions as an adult, potentially facing harsher sentencing than if she were tried as a juvenile. On January 30, 2012, Alyssa Bustamante's trial for murder officially began. Before the court, the prosecution presented ample evidence implicating Alyssa, including evidence of her actions in harming Elizabeth Olten. Alyssa Bustamante also confessed to all of her actions during the trial. She admitted and stated that she wanted to know how it felt to kill someone. This admission could significantly impact the trial proceedings and the eventual outcome of the case. Bustamante sat quietly, occasionally glancing up as she listened to the damning evidence against her, and often bowed her head when law enforcement officials, lawyers, and forensic experts read aloud the chilling entries from the murderer's journal. The defense attorneys presented mitigating circumstances in an attempt to lessen Alyssa's sentence. They highlighted the challenging circumstances of her upbringing. Alyssa's mother gave birth to her when she was still a teenager herself. The mother has also had numerous run-ins with the law regarding drug possession and driving under the influence, among other offenses. Meanwhile, Alyssa's father is serving a 10-year sentence for assault. From a young age, Alyssa and her siblings did not receive proper care and attention from their parents but were raised in the care of their grandparents. Prior to perpetrating the act, Alyssa had numerous indications of psychiatric disorders. This female student battled depression frequently and made multiple attempts at suicide. Friends reported that she would frequently rip her arms and legs in an attempt to get thrills. Alyssa also admits to having hobbies like murder, cutting, and dismembering on her internet profiles. The reasons for the defense not being accepted by the court and the defendant still being subject to prosecution under the proper framework of U.S. law in 2012, when Alyssa Bustamante reached the age of 18, the court decided to sentence her to life imprisonment for the crimes of murder and the use of a weapon to commit murder. Alyssa Bustamante, upon seeing the scene of her grandparents crying uncontrollably out of grief for their granddaughter, was suddenly awakened to the gravity of the situation. For the first time in years since committing the heinous crime, Alyssa wept bitterly, expressing her desire to apologize for what had happened. She was overwhelmed with regret, stating that if she could exchange her own life for Elizabeth's, she would. However, Alyssa's tears of remorse came too late. Elizabeth's mother, Patty Price, was not satisfied with the verdict. She feared that the parole board would allow Alyssa to walk free, like Casey Anthony. Upon hearing the court's verdict, Price openly expressed her emotions about Alyssa. She stated that she hated Alyssa and hated everything about her. What she despised most was what people said about Alyssa's age. The only thing her age had produced was a vicious monster. She couldn't forget the 8 times Alyssa stabbed her daughter and found it amusing. Priests couldn't fathom Alyssa throwing her daughter into a hole and covering her with dirt as if she were nothing. Price recalled her final memory of Elizabeth as a happy little girl. Tragically, Alyssa had robbed her of a future, a family, and a fulfilled life. Price and other loved ones of Elizabeth wanted to ensure that her memory would never be forgotten and that her killer would remain behind bars.